1, 2, 3, swing it.
Do you have an old sound tape or your favorite cassette tape that you want converted to CD or MP3 format? Do you need a demo CD, radio ad, a DJ or even a sound system for your wedding, birthday or special occasion? Then why not get in contact with KTR Records on 07931 152 448 or check out our website on www.ktrrecords.com. We have been in business since 2004 and also undertake community projects. So for your remixes, duplets and all your sound editing needs, why not contact KTR Records, official sponsor of World Jam Global Radio. KTR Records, coming your way.
I was terrified about sharing the vulnerabilities of people with difficulties reading and spelling words. However, I can see the value in sharing, and I have taken the time to make some notes about this in my book, Dyslexic: The Silent Difference. You can get your copy now at www.a1tribe.com or amazon.com or amazon.co.uk. Thank you again, everyone, for your support.
Do you like music like this?
Great music all the time.
Or like this?
The music you love.
Maybe this.
Great music that makes you want to turn up the volume loud.
Or life track like this.
Especially where human life is concerned. Surely, sooner or later, people will realize that lives actually matter.
Then you're in the right place. Keep it locked to World Jam Global, where music is harmony.
Music 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
Yeah, you're my World Jam. Hotter than them.
See live schedule.
I already did my time. I paid for my crime. I already did my time. I paid for my crime.
It's Saturday night, 6 o'clock UK time. Time for Issues Today live on World Jam Global Radio.
I already did my time. I paid for my crime. I already did my time. I paid for
You can catch us live on www.worldjamglobalradio.com.
I paid for my crime.
Get us live on YouTube, get us live on Twitter, get us live on Facebook.
I didn't really care about the system. It was all about survival. It was do or die. I had too many.
And if you could just excuse me for a few moments, I'm just sharing this stream live across the world.
There was not a man I couldn't beat. I was good with my hands and very quick on my feet. I was swimming in women. I had girls all over the street. I was getting money. Life was so sweet. Now things have changed. The whole game has been rearranged. I'm a changed man. Don't need no gun in my hand. It ain't about being no gangster. Life is too short to spend it all in jail. Trying to cope with this living hell. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. I was a drug dealer, sold more drugs than Superfly, but I never got high on my own supply. I'm not proud of what I had to do. That's why I'm telling my story to you and you. I had to repent. I must admit, I was doing all kind of stupid shit. Now I sit back and think it over since I've gotten older. The life I used to live, I wouldn't do it again. I was young and dumb, my brain was so numb. I was a real Forrest Gump, but I was nobody's chump. Me and Billy the Kid had a lot in common. I was the real Terminator, much meaner than Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'd chew you up and spit you out like a real alligator, especially all you haters.
The opening statements are going on right now. He could be facing life in prison.
Already did my time, paid for my crime. Already did my time. Already did my time, paid for my crime. Already did my time. Pay for my crime, pay for my crime, pay for my crime, pay for my crime.
I'll be updating you on what we're doing on today's show very shortly. Stand by, please.
Already did my time. I paid for my crime.
Show's titled
Felony off my back. So
Another Day in the Hood.
track and have the right to vote and live like an ordinary citizen again. This is my message to all of my friends in the pen, statewide, worldwide. There was not a man I couldn't beat. I was good with my hands and very quick on my feet. I was swimming in women. I had girls all over the street. I was getting money. Life was so sweet. Now things have changed. The whole game has been rearranged. I'm a changed man. Don't need no gun in my hand. It ain't about being no gangster. Life is too short to spend it all in jail. Trying to cope with this living hell. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. I was a drug dealer, sold more drugs than Superfly, but I never got high on my own supply. I'm not proud of what I had to do.
Facebook are making it really, really hard for me to share nowadays.
I had to
Keep cutting out,
I must admit,
blocking me.
all kind of stupid.
But no worries, we got it.
Sit back and think it over since I've gotten older. The life I used to live, I wouldn't do it again. I was young and dumb, my brain was so numb. I was a real Forrest Gump, but I was nobody's chump. Me and Billy the Kid had a lot in common. I was the real Terminator, much meaner than Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'd chew you up and spit you out like a real alligator, especially all you haters. Already did my time, paid for my crime. Already did my time, already did my time. I paid for my crime, already did my time.
The opening statements are going on right now. He could be facing life in prison. Prison. Prison.
Well. Trying to cope with this living hell. Trying to cope with this living hell.
Well, I came in by this story accidentally.
Yes, I am.
But today we've got
Trying to cope
Kenithia, Alston.
with this living hell. Already did my time.
Another Day in the Hood.
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come.
Another mother crying for a lost child.
Is in heaven.
Another mother fighting
Give us
for justice.
bread
Another mother
and forgive us our
who's
trespasses
seen her son's life taken away
against us.
before he's even had an opportunity
Temptation,
to live it.
deliver us from evil. For thine is
For today,
the power, the
as we
ever and ever.
investigate another day in the hood, we get to find out exactly what happened to Marquise Alston on that fateful day. Stand by.
All those drive-by killings, stop them. It ain't about nothing. He who was out sin, let him cast the first stone.
Want to say a big shout outs going out to Vanessa Whirling, Lorraine Thompson, David Bowman,
Track and have the
and everybody else that are tuning in and commenting. It's great to see you guys.
My message to all of my friends in the pen, statewide, worldwide, and put down those knives. Stop stabbing each other. Yeah.
We're going to have Patrick Lane support us today. D. Martin will join us at some point, and we're hoping that Stephanie Babb might just butt in every now and again. Yolanda will join in if she's free, but today our special guest is going to be Kenithia Alston. Stand by. Okay. So, first and foremost, I just want to say a big good afternoon going out to my dear friend, Patrick Lane, a hardcore member of our roundtable team. So thankful that he can step in and support. TJ, as her computer has crashed, and she's really struggling to get herself up onto the internet at the moment. As much as she'd love to be with us today, she's had a very difficult week as well, not feeling too good this week. She's been ill most of the week, but she still managed to make sure that everything got pushed through in time and all the paperwork and stuff was done. Kenithia was set up and ready to go before she lost all of her stuff. So a big shout out going out to Dee Martin. Thank you very much. She will be joining us at some point. But again, as I said, let's just welcome Patrick Lane and let him introduce himself. How are we doing, Patrick?
I'm doing well, Kervin. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here with you. And as always, I'm so appreciative of what you're doing for the families that have suffered through this. So thank you again very much, sir.
So Patrick is going to step in alongside and almost be a bit of a sidekick riding shotgun with me, hopefully prompt him with some other questions that may come up as we begin to talk and interview Kenithia Alston. And without any further ado, again, as I've said, this woman is a woman that's fighting for justice. She's fighting for the justice for the loss of her son, Marquise Alston, whose life was tragically taken away at the hands of law enforcement, which we'll hear about a little bit later. But just so that the audience can get an understanding of who you are, Kenithia, why don't you start off by introducing yourself?
Great day, and thank you so much for having me, Kervin. My name is Kenithia Alston, and I live within the District of Columbia area. I'm a single parent, a single mother who has graduated from the University of Maryland, and currently I work for the Public Defender Service within Washington, D.C. Love my D.C. nativeness, and I'm grateful to be on the show.
Well, thank you, Kenithia. I suppose there's many ways that people go around getting on a radio show, but if the truth be told, I would imagine that this is not one of the ways that you'd like to have been on this radio show.
Absolutely not.
You know, we said in the intro, we called this Another Day in the Hood, and I've read several articles regarding the stories around your son's case, and we're going to hear a little bit more about Marquise and how he tragically lost his life in a short while. But before we do, what I'd really like you to do is introduce us to Marquise, your son now. I would imagine that, as you said, you're a single mother. Was Marquise, how many children did you have?
So I have 2 children. Marquise had an older brother, Anthony.
Okay, so Marquise is the younger of the 2.
Yes.
Okay, so being the younger of the 2, you already had a son in situ when Marquise came into this world. What sort of a baby was it, and what was going on for you in your life at that time? Apart from being the mother of one child, you had another one coming into the world. But what was going on for you around that time, and what sort of a baby did Marquise come out as?
So during the time that I was that I had Marquise, I was freshly graduate from high school and on my way to the University of the District of Columbia. Marquise, in his formative growing years, he had some various personalities that displayed so fully. Marquise was very attentive to me as a single parent. He always helped out within the household with doing chores. He was always mindful of his physical appearance at such a young age. He really enjoyed sharing his brother's clothes. He was very intellectual and very inquisitive in school. He also helped out with the AV ministry at the church we attended at a very young age as well.
Wow, he sounds like he was pretty busy.
Yes. Yes, I made sure I kept him.
So what sort of a brother was he for his older brother? What was his older brother's name?
So his older brother's name is Anthony.
Okay. And what sort of relationship did they have?
They had a very close relationship, very close bond knitted. They looked out for each other during their school years. Whatever sport or extracurriculum activity Anthony engaged in, Marquise always followed suit. So Anthony started out playing soccer, and so Marquise did soccer. Then he started out playing basketball since Anthony played basketball.
So they were like, I mean, Marquise must have really looked up to Anthony then.
He really did, yes.
Okay, so, and as they were growing up in a community where you lived, were they kind of popular with the other guy, with the other kids in the area? Did they have lots of friends?
Yes. So Marquise loved to be popular within the school setting. I can even remember going to the school and everybody would say, Marquise, your mom is here. Your mom is here. I enjoyed eating lunch with Marquise, even though Marquise didn't pretty much care for it. But they were very popular in school. And even within the family setting, the family looked towards Marquise to bring the smile, to bring the joy, to bring the fun, the laughter to our family functions.
Going up into his teenage years then, what was he like then? Was he still as actively engaged in the family environment and the church ministries that you were talking about?
So yes, he still was very much engaged in the church setting. I took my children to church with me every Sunday, whether they wanted to go or not. Marquise also was striving to find his identity, considering his biological father chose not to be in his life.
Wow. So, if Marquise was a family-orientated individual, so I suppose what I want to know is, was there at any point did he start to make wrong turns? Did he start to come under police radar? Was he getting himself in any sorts of trouble?
So Marquise always questioned why was his dad not physically involved in his life. So that was something that Marquise always questioned and wanted to know answers to. However, there was a very dynamic individual, a brother that I was introduced to, and when Marquise was very, very young, even at birth. And so he began to play father figure to Marquise, and that helped Marquise an enormous amount as far as his growing and development.
Okay. So Marquise then wasn't somebody that got himself into trouble or hung around on the streets getting into altercations with police and that kind of thing then?
No, Marquise did not get into altercations with the police. Marquise was a typical child. At school settings, he may have a fight here or there. But as far as being physically a derogatory towards law enforcement, no, that was not Marquise's character.
Well, he does, as D. Martin says, he sounds like a well-rounded young man.
Yes.
Marquise went on to be a father. So how did that come to be?
So Marquise, can't even remember. Marquise shared with me that him and his co-parent, they were pregnant. And so he was very, very excited to be a father, especially considering he always had thoughts and always wanted to be the best father. He wanted that in his own life. And so therefore he wanted to, of course, portray that to his own daughter.
So bearing in mind that you mentioned that not having his father in his life was a real thing for him, I take it that then put upon him the urgency for him to be an even better role model as a father for himself.
Absolutely. And those were even words that he shared with me very frequently.
So what was he like at school, and as far as his teachers was concerned? What were the reports like coming back each year, and how well did he progress in his school years?
So Marquise progressed very well in his school years. He would get perfect attendance awards. He would get most inquisitive awards. Marquise typically always finished his work very soon before the other students in the class. And so the teacher will always have to find something extra for Marquise to do. Marquise found himself getting bored a lot in school because he would finish his schoolwork so quickly.
Wow, I just want to bring Patrick Lane in very quickly if I can. And I just want to say this. basically, almost most of the stories that we do on this particular show, and I suppose you can talk from a personal point of view with your nephew, Taylor. Majority of the times when we get to this point, the amount of times that we're talking about an individual that is not on the police radar. Do you not find that so significant, Patrick?
I find it striking every time that we've had this, you and I have had this conversation before. It is, we come onto these stories and we read these stories in the press and we expect that behind them we're going to find this person who is in altercations with police, that is, doing things that they weren't supposed to be doing. But what we're finding instead is we're finding these good kids that any one of us would be proud to have in our family. It never fails just to floor me, the quality of individuals that we have lost.
And, I believe that's why it's so significantly important that we create this platform for mothers and family members to humanize their lost loved ones, because we don't actually get to hear this side of the family members that have been lost, based on what the media release and allow to be released into the open stream, right?
That's right. Absolutely.
So it's
absolutely.
It's absolutely. I suppose it's even more heartbreaking as a parent. If you had a child that was a runaway, a ragamuffin, a bit of a troublemaker, and always, police were always turning up at your doorstep with him in the back of the vehicle in handcuffs. I suppose you can half expect there to be very little sympathy if something was to go wrong. But when you're talking about somebody that's in church ministry, a wonderful family member, used to be the light and life of the party, and family get-togethers, etc., doing well at school, working in church ministry, etc., I think it's even more important that we have these type of platforms available for mothers and families to be able to share the stories of these loved ones. We're going to go and hear some stuff in a minute that's going to be like chalk and cheese in comparison to what we've just been hearing, right? But isn't it wonderful that we get to hear that Marquise was just such a wonderful lad, and he was truly loved and appreciated by his family?
And that's why what you're doing here, Kervin, and what you've done is truly amazing, and why every family, which have been several that I've talked to that have been featured on your show, we've talked, and we are just from the bottom of our hearts, we're just have such a debt of gratitude and thankfulness for what you're doing and what you've done for us.
Well, together as a team, we're bringing these stories to light. But let's just flip right back to Kenithia, because here you are now. You've got this great representation of a son who's living a wonderful life. He's a wonderful child. He's a wonderful brother. He's doing absolutely fantastic. He's now a father, and he's trying to make a good example of being a father, because he doesn't want to be like the father that wasn't in his life. So he's trying to lead by example. He's doing a lot of positive things in the community and in the church ministry, etc. So when did things change? What happened? Did you get a phone call? Was it a knock on the door? What happened that was to turn your world upside down?
So on June 12th, actually even backing up some, on June 10th, I dropped Lyric, Marquise's daughter, off to him, and I said, hey Marquise, how about you come over to me and Lyric, and the three of us get a picture, because the three of us don't have a picture together. He's like, oh Mom, there you go again with the pictures. And so thank God I took that picture, because that was the last time I saw my son alive, which was 2 days before. On June 12th, about 7:10 p.m., I got a call on my cell phone from Marquise's co-parent. And she said, she was panting on the phone as soon as I answered, and she said, Marquise has just been shot. And so I said, okay. I'm still thinking hopefulness. And I said, okay, so what hospital are we going to? Because I was driving home from work. And she said, we're not going to a hospital. He's gone.
That must have shook you to the very core.
It so did. It so did.
We're with you. We're with you, Kenithia. Let's try and tell your story in the best way that we possibly can, and let's honor Marquise today, in this very day. Let's honor him. You know, and I've got no problem with you getting emotional. I've got no problem with you breaking down. I've got no problem with you taking your time to compose yourself. I have no issue with that. If you need to take a moment, just say you need to take a moment. Me and Patrick will pick up the slack. But you get this phone call that's telling you that your son has been shot, and you're like, well, hang on a minute. How could that possibly be? What was he supposed to have been doing that put him in a position where he could be shot?
And so unfortunately, I've only gotten all of this information from either word of mouth or what's been put out on social media, because unfortunately MPD or no one within the District of Columbia has given me any official information. So from my understanding, Marquise had picked Lyric up from daycare, and my uncle had given Marquise and Lyric a ride back home to where they were residing at, which is where he got killed. And from my understanding, Marquise took the baby into her mother, and Marquise went like just to stay on the front porch to hang out with his friends. And the co-parent shared within minutes, she heard gunshots.
So at that point, what did she do? Did she come out?
So at that point, so because Marquise went kind of to the side of the apartment building, and she was in the front of the apartment building, so she, of course, immediately after the shots went to where Marquise was, and that's when she saw everything with the baby.
So, what did you do next?
So, I was headed to the scene because I felt like I wanted to see him. But then, as I was calling Marquise's father, Tyrone, and he made the suggestion that I not go to the scene and see our son like that. And so I decided to drive back home. And so Anthony went to the scene when I got back home. And when the 10 o'clock news, which is the first news segment that comes on in our area, local stations, it was all plastered all over the news. And of course, I'm trying to figure out, how is it that this has reached the media and no one from MPD, the Metropolitan Police Department, came to my home to notify me? Because at that point, I hadn't even notified all of my family yet.
So, I mean,
because I was still thinking.
No, go. You carry on.
I was just gonna say, because for some reason I thought maybe this is unreal. Yeah. Maybe they're gonna come to my home and say he was shot and
he survived.
He's still living.
Yeah. You were still trying to hang on to some level of hope at this point.
Yes.
Because all you had at this point was hearsay. You had no facts. You had no body.
Yes.
There was no picture of Marquise dead. It was just somebody saying it.
Yes.
So you had hope.
Yes.
This is a mistake. Maybe they got the wrong guy. Maybe he looked like Marquise.
Yes.
It's not my Marquise.
Yes.
Any minute now, I'm going to get a phone call and somebody's going to say they're sorry. They made a mistake. It wasn't Marquise.
Yes. Yes.
You had hope.
Yes.
How long was it, Kenithia, before that hope was dragged out from beneath your feet?
So the next day, I guess about 18 hours later is when the Metropolitan Police Department came to my home. And when they came to my home, they just merely referred to the shooting as an incident. They said, we're here in regards to an incident that occurred on yesterday.
They're talking about Marquise Alston, your son, the young man who, excuse me, you gave birth to. The young man you carried in your womb for 9 months, that you went into labor with and gave birth, who you fed and nurtured and changed diapers and watched him take his first steps and heard him speak his first words, watched him grow up into a fine young man, and they're referring to Marquise as an incident.
Yes.
How did that leave you feeling that, you know, they're talking about Marquise as an incident?
So it devastated me in disbelief. I was heartbroken. I was agonized. I felt like we were less than human beings.
Let me just bring in Patrick again very quickly, because this is something that we've never really gone into when we've done our interviews and had conversations with families. But this general approach to police coming into the family home, even, you know, with Kenithia, it was 18 hours. We've had times where it's been days or even weeks before police have turned up at anybody's home. But is there, am I making this up? Am I just imagining it? Or does there sound to be a total lack of compassion for the person that they are speaking to who has just lost their loved one? Should there not be a different way that they do this?
And we're talking about governmental agencies that we pay, our tax dollars pay to protect us, right?
Right.
And time again, Kervin, we hear what we're hearing from Kenithia today is that, and it was like that with Taylor. We heard nothing from the sheriff's department. We got nothing. They released nothing. We were hearing about things through media. And then even afterwards, there was no type of follow-up, anything that you would expect, no condolences, nothing from these departments. It is a total lack of disrespect. I believe that immediately when an officer violates a citizen's rights, especially ending in a death, the wagons begin to circle at that time. And that's what their focus becomes, is keeping the truth. That apparatus goes into effect that we've all talked about at length, goes into effect to keep the truth from coming out. This is heartbreaking hearing Kenithia talk, but this is exactly what the world needs to hear. This is what is left for families after going through something like this.
Wow. So you would have thought that, you know, when we watch TV programs, they always give you this impression of somebody coming round to the house and sitting you down, making sure that you're comfortable. It's a empathetic, compassionate individual, normally a man and a woman, and they normally use a softer one to do the talking, and they kind of sit you down. Is there anybody with you? Are you on your own? You know, and then you got the person going, well, what's the matter? No, you might need to call somebody, and you're already suspecting that it's bad news. But we're not hearing stuff like that. We're hearing cold-hearted, almost investigative approaches to telling somebody that you've just killed their child. Cold-hearted.
Well, and then let me jump right again. And after that happens, then the campaign starts to assassinate the character of the person that was killed.
Criminalize.
You know,
criminalize.
To criminalize that person, to depersonalize that person.
So that the rest of the world would think, oh, well, that guy, whatever he got, he had it coming. Wow.
That's right. That's right.
So Kenithia, here you are. They're at your home, and they're speaking to you. Mm-hmm. Did you feel that they had any respect for you, or understanding of what you could have possibly been going through at that moment, as they were supposedly telling you that the child that you brought into life, that they were now confirming was dead?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It was 4 individuals in total. Two officers put on their black gloves as one detective was talking to me. And so my son, Anthony, he became he was very upset. And he says, why are you all even coming to our home in this manner, as if we've done something, when you all are coming to tell us about our loved one? And so they only just merely gave me, was that my son? They showed me a picture of him. And then they simply gave me a Google printout of the DC Medical Examiner's Office contact information. They handed me that print.
I don't want to speak for Kenithia, but for my family, it really starts to cause you to question